I see the light bulb going off in your head. You're thinking to yourself, hey, I get all of this. I know what UTC is, I know why it's important, and I know why I should use it. But then again, you may be asking yourself, with this whole UTC thing, what does it look like? Well, Postgres uses a standard called ISO 8601. It is a standard that tells us how we should format dates and times. Standard that basically says, hey, guys, when you're working with dates and times, just show them like this. Just process them like this. And everything will be straightforward. As long as we follow this standard, as long as we follow these rules, all applications can consume dates in the same way. Now, it stands to reason that ISO 8601 as a standard doesn't necessarily show you a date and time in the way that you would view it in your home country. For instance, me in Belgium, well, when I lived in Belgium at least, we would show dates day, month, year with slashes in between. But other parts of the world, like North America, they'll show dates starting with the month and then the day and then the year. Moving here was extremely complicated. I made many mistakes on many forms. That said, ISO 8601 is a standard that we want to use on computers. It doesn't mean that when we send the date to the end user, we can't still format it in the way it should look for them at that point in time. But all along the chain, we want to follow standards. And since we're in the database layer, since we're at this place where we're storing everything, we want to follow as many standards as possible so that all other applications that consume our data can base themselves off of the standards. And we are basically at the lowest possible level of data. We're storing it, we're holding it. So following these standards is of vital importance for us so that other applications understand how to consume what we give them. Now, how does that look? Well, when you use ISO 8601, we are looking at a format. Why? Now I can hear you thinking, why am I working with dates and times? But trust me, it makes more sense than it looks in this obscure format. Y, MMDD, T, HH, MMSS. All right, what does this mean? Well, this is the ISO 8601 format for date time, both the combination of date and time. And when we look at that standard as a format, what we see here is we would depict the 17th of August 2017 as 2017-08-17. And then we would say the time is 12:47:16. And then we could say plus 02:00. So we're saying the time zone is a 2-hour offset from UTC. It's plus 2 hours. That makes sense. So in this one string, we are depicting so much information. And by following a standard, we now have a standard way of saying, well, if this is the way things are going to come in, I know how to understand them. Year, month, day, hour, minute, second, time zone. So optionally behind this, there is a plus with the time zone. This is optional because if you do not give it, it will assume that it is already in UTC. It does not have a time zone, therefore it is UTC format. The ISO 8601 is a document that specifies how things should be formatted. UTC is a time standard, and not giving a time zone to something assumes that it is already UTC. Is all of that making sense? Because it can become confusing. In any case, always remember UTC is a time standard. ISO 8601 is a formatting standard. It is a way to depict a UTC date and time in a uniform way for which we can understand it. And we already said that Postgres at its core uses UTC. And the way Postgres will store date formats is in the standard of ISO 8601. Now, a format is a way of representing a date and time. Make sure you remember this. A format is a way of representing a date and time, because this is of utmost importance when understanding how we're going to format dates and times later, and how we can translate our formats, if we so have them, into a UTC ISO 8601 format. Now, let's take a look at timestamps and how timestamps work, because we've talked about UTC, we've talked about ISO 8601, we've talked about how we store dates and times in a representative way, in a format, in a standard. But now you may be asking yourself, Mo, all I've seen in the database so far are like dates. They just have year, month, day. I haven't seen anything that contains time like you just showed me in that standard. Well, let's take a look at the data that can contain both date and time. And we call them timestamps. So let's zoom into that.